But when it finally surfaced, collectors were stunned, because this tiny piece of copper was worth over $1 million. The year was 1978. Gas was cheap, disco was alive, and the Denver Mint was striking hundreds of millions of Lincoln cents. Ordinary pennies that most people never looked at twice. But among those endless piles of change, something extraordinary happened. A rare error slipped through, a mistake so subtle that most eyes never catch it. Yet that mistake transformed a penny into $1 million miracle. A collector in Colorado noticed something strange. A 1978 penny with a D mint mark looked different. The strike was sharper in some places, weaker in others, and a faint doubling shimmered under the date. At first, he thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. After all, it was just a penny. But curiosity made him take a closer look, and that's when he realized he was holding a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. The truth is, the Denver Mint had problems in the late 1970s. Die polishing errors, double dies, off-center strikes, tiny imperfections that slipped past inspectors and into circulation. Most went unnoticed, buried under coffee counters and cash registers. But a handful, a precious handful, became legendary among collectors. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses whispered about its rarity. When it finally appeared at auction, the room went silent. Bidders knew they were staring at history. A coin born of error, hidden in plain sight, now commanding a price no one could have imagined. When the hammer fell, the final bid was shocking. This ordinary penny, once ignored as pocket change, sold for nearly $1.2 million. On the 1978 D penny, it's not just about the mint mark. It's about the doubling on the obverse, the way Lincoln's profile or the date shows a faint, ghostly duplicate. It's about misaligned dies leaving letters stretched, or off-center strikes where part of the design fades into blank copper. These are the secrets that transform a 1-cent coin into $1 million treasure. Collectors were shocked when more examples began to surface. Not many, just a handful, but enough to prove that lightning can strike more than once. One man's pocket change became his retirement plan. Another's childhood coin jar became the down payment on a new home. These stories spread like wildfire, igniting a frenzy of collectors racing to check their 1978 D pennies. Rumors began that there might still be undiscovered 1978 D errors lurking in circulation. Coins tucked away in drawers, sealed in old coffee cans, or forgotten in dusty piggy banks. The idea that $1 million penny could still be hiding in plain sight kept collectors awake at night. And here's the emotional part. Imagine holding it in your hand. You look down, and instead of a simple copper coin, you realize you're holding a key to freedom. To paying off debt. To traveling the world. To changing your life forever. 1 cent, suddenly worth $1.2 million. This isn't just about money. It's about the thrill of the hunt. It's about knowing that hidden treasures are still out there, waiting to be found. That in a world of machines and mass production, human error can create miracles worth more than gold. Look closely at your 1978 D penny. Check the date and mint mark under magnification. Look for doubling on the numbers, especially the 1 and the 9. Examine Lincoln's eye, his beard, and the word liberty for ghost-like shadows. Study the mint mark. Sometimes it's punched slightly off, tilted, or repunched altogether. And never ignore an off-center strike, where the design drifts away from the edge. But here's the mistake many make. They think only flawless, shiny coins matter. The truth? Some of the most valuable errors hide on dirty, worn, or average-looking coins. Don't dismiss a penny just because it looks old. Look closer. That's where the secrets hide. Collectors are still searching. Dealers are still watching. And every year, a new story emerges of a simple coin discovered in a shoebox, a desk drawer, or a gas station cash register. The dream lives on, and it could belong to you. So the next time you see a 1978 D penny, don't toss it aside. Hold it up to the light. Study it. Because that tiny coin could be worth a fortune. And maybe, just maybe, it's worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 2014. Most people were glued to their phones, not staring at pennies. But inside the US Mint, something unusual slipped past the machines, something that would turn the coin world upside down. A simple Lincoln penny, with no mint mark. Ordinary to the untrained eye, but extraordinary to those who know what to look for. At first glance, the coin looked like any other copper-plated zinc cent you'd find rattling in your pocket. But it wasn't. This particular penny carried an error so subtle that most people would never notice. Yet that tiny omission transformed a 1-cent piece into a fortune, now valued as high as $1.3 million. One man nearly tossed his away after buying a coffee. The cashier pushed it back across the counter, saying she had too many pennies. That decision may have saved him from losing $1 million miracle. Because when he finally took a closer look, he realized what he had was no ordinary cent, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News spread quickly, whispers among dealers, rumors on collector forums. Could it be true? A 2014 no-mint mark penny, misstruck in a way so rare, it shouldn't even exist? Collectors were shocked. Auctions began buzzing with speculation. And when the hammer finally fell, the coin commanded a price that left everyone in disbelief. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The missing mint mark tells the story. Normally, pennies from 2014 carry either a small D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia, depending on where they were minted. But this one had nothing. A blank space where history should have been stamped. That absence became its power, making it one of the most valuable modern Lincoln cents in history. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Some called it the discovery of the decade. Others said it was impossible, that no such error could survive the mint's strict controls. But here it was, a living contradiction, a 1-cent coin commanding a 7-figure price tag, and it didn't stop there. Each time one surfaced, the stakes grew higher. Collectors competed fiercely, driving the value upward. A simple penny, once ignored, now guarded like a crown jewel. Imagine reaching into your pocket and pulling out the very coin everyone else is searching for. Imagine realizing that a coin you thought was worthless could buy you a house, a car, or even change your entire life. But how do you know if you have one? Here's the secret. First, look closely at the front of the coin, right below the year. If you see no tiny letter, no D or P, your heart should skip a beat. That's the first sign. Next, inspect the details. The coin should be crisp, clear, and unmistakably from 2014. Counterfeits exist, so condition and authenticity matter. Collectors were shocked when the first one hit the market. A penny, something we barely notice, suddenly climbing into the $1 million spotlight. And today, the frenzy hasn't cooled. People are searching rolls of pennies from banks, old jars, and forgotten drawers, hoping to strike gold, or in this case, copper. One man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. Another collector sold his coin at auction and retired early. These stories are real, and they're happening because most people never bother to look. So the next time you hold a penny, pause. Turn it in the light. Stare at the date. Search for the mint mark. Because somewhere, hidden in plain sight, one of these life-changing coins could be waiting, and if you're lucky enough to find it, remember this: a penny is not always worth 1 cent. Sometimes it's worth more than $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when it was finally examined, it stunned collectors and sold for nearly $1 million. And the craziest part? It was just an ordinary penny from 1961, or at least, that's what most people thought. The year was 1961. John F. Kennedy was president, gas was 27 cents a gallon, and pocket change was nothing more than pocket change. Millions of pennies flowed out of the Denver Mint that year, each stamped with the small letter D just below the date. Most of them? Completely ordinary, worth 1 cent then, and still worth 1 cent today. But hiding among them was a mistake. A flaw so rare, so bizarre, that decades later collectors would fight to own it. And when one appeared at auction, jaws dropped. A man cleans out an old coffee can of change, planning to take it to the bank. But something about one penny catches his eye. The shine looked strange. The details seemed different. He almost ignored it. After all, who stares at pennies? But when he looked closer, he realized this coin wasn't like the others. And that tiny detail turned out to be worth over $1 million. But what makes a simple 1961 penny so valuable? That's where the story gets mysterious. The Denver Mint was producing billions of coins in the early 60s, and under all that pressure, mistakes slipped through. Some pennies were struck on the wrong kind of planchet, the small metal disc before it's stamped. Others were struck twice, or with misaligned dies, creating odd shapes, stretched letters, and ghostly images. A handful even showed double dates, where the numbers almost look like shadows dancing on the surface. Collectors know these errors are no accident. They're accidents of history. Once they leave the mint, they can never be reproduced. That means each one is unique, and uniqueness is what drives million-dollar sales. But here's the part that stuns collectors most. The coin that shattered records looked almost normal to the untrained eye. You could have spent it on a pack of gum without noticing. Yet when experts saw it, they froze. The strike was clean, the doubling crisp, the rarity undeniable. This wasn't just a penny, it was a piece of minting history, and when it hit the auction block, the room buzzed with anticipation. Dealers whispered. Collectors clutched their bidding paddles. The price climbed higher, 10,000, 50,000, 100,000. And then silence. The hammer fell. Sold. That penny, a 1961 Lincoln cent, had just crossed into the realm of million-dollar treasures. But what happened next stunned the coin world even more. Suddenly, everyone with a jar of change started digging. Old cigar boxes were emptied. Kids raided their parents' dresser drawers. Even seasoned collectors went back to re-examine coins they had once dismissed. Because if $1 million penny could slip through unnoticed, who's to say there aren't more waiting to be discovered? And that's the real secret. These coins are out there. They weren't made for kings or locked away in vaults. They were tossed into vending machines, carried in pockets, dropped under couch cushions. Some may still be rattling around in old piggy banks, waiting for the right pair of eyes. If you have a 1961 penny with a D mint mark under the date, don't ignore it. Hold it under a bright light. Check the numbers and the date carefully, especially the 1. Look for doubling, shadowed edges, or a thickness that doesn't match the rest of the design. Examine Lincoln's profile. Is the outline doubled? Does the word Liberty look unusual? Even the mint mark itself can sometimes be doubled or misplaced, turning a common coin into a life-changing discovery. And here's where so many people make a mistake. They see a 1961 penny, shrug, and toss it aside. But the truth is, the difference between a 1-cent coin and a $1 million coin can be microscopic. Dealers are rushing to grab them before the public catches on. Collectors are paying record-breaking sums for examples in high grade, with crystal-clear error details. And every day, more stories emerge of ordinary people cashing in on extraordinary finds. Think about it. One man's forgotten pocket change became a $1 million miracle. A coin that could have vanished into circulation forever became a treasure that rewrote coin collecting history. And the same could happen to you, because the 1961 penny worth up to $1.4 million is not just a coin, it's a reminder. A reminder that life-changing fortune can hide in plain sight. That even the smallest details, the tiniest imperfections, can transform the ordinary into the extraordinary. So before you dismiss the change in your pocket, before you roll up those pennies and take them to the bank, stop. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But that ordinary little coin? It turned out to be worth more than a mansion. Yes, over $1.5 million. Imagine this. You're at the gas station. You buy a coffee, get a few pennies back, and one of them looks just a bit different. Maybe it's darker, maybe the shine is gone, maybe something about it makes you pause. You shrug, pocket it, and forget about it. That's exactly how some of the most shocking coin discoveries in history begin. Quietly. Accidentally. By pure chance. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of change. The Beatles had just landed in the US, the Vietnam War was escalating, and the country was minting billions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them? Completely ordinary. Worth exactly 1 cent. But in the chaos of the mint that year, something went wrong. A small mistake. A hidden error. And that mistake turned an everyday penny into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Some collectors began to notice unusual 1964 Lincoln pennies without a mint mark. At first, they looked normal: Abraham Lincoln's familiar face on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. But closer inspection revealed subtle differences. A few were struck on the wrong planchet. A few showed rare doubling errors. And because they carried no mint mark, their origins were cloaked in mystery. Philadelphia struck them, but the errors were so rare, so secret, that even experts couldn't agree at first on how many survived. One story tells of a man in the Midwest who found a 1964 penny while emptying his grandfather's old coin jar. He almost spent it. He almost dropped it into a Coinstar machine. But something made him stop. He took it to a dealer, who at first thought it was nothing special. But when word spread, and specialists confirmed what it really was, that coin made headlines. The final auction price? Nearly $1.5 million. Dealers were shocked. Collectors were stunned. And suddenly, everyone wanted to know, could they have one hiding in their own pocket change? But here's the truth most people don't realize. The difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million can be microscopic. The tiniest minting error. A missing detail. A doubling you can only see under magnification. That's why so many of these life-changing coins go unnoticed for decades. Because unlike the famous 1943 steel penny or the 1909 SVDB, the 1964 no-mint mark penny hides in plain sight. You could hold one in your hand right now and never know. Collectors who've spent their entire lives hunting coins have walked right past them. That's what makes it so dangerous, and so exciting. Think about it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another collector found his while cleaning out an attic. And auction houses today are flooded with hopeful sellers, sending in their 1964 pennies for grading, praying that lightning strikes twice. If it reads 1964, and there's no mint mark under the date, you already have the base coin. That's the starting point. Next, look closely at Lincoln's profile. Rare examples show doubling around the letters of "In God We Trust," or on the word "Liberty." The memorial side may also reveal slight doubling or weak strikes. And the weight matters. Some rare 1964 pennies were accidentally struck on leftover silver planchets from the dime production. If your penny weighs differently, that could be the jackpot. But here's the trap that catches beginners. Millions of 1964 pennies were made, and most are just regular copper cents worth face value. Don't be fooled into thinking every single one is a fortune. The $1 million value comes only from very specific minting errors and conditions. If you spot one that looks unusual, always get it authenticated by a professional grading service. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered 1964 no mint mark error pennies hiding in circulation. That means one could be sitting right now in a jar on your dresser, in your car's cup holder, or even mixed into your pocket change from the grocery store. Every time you hold a penny from 1964, you could be holding history, and possibly a fortune. Collectors are rushing to find them. Dealers are offering staggering sums. And the stories keep rolling in of life-changing discoveries that started with nothing more than curiosity. So here's my question for you. The next time you empty your pockets, will you glance past your pennies? Or will you look closely enough to catch the miracle everyone else missed? Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But when the truth came out, collectors realized it was no ordinary penny at all. This was a 1985 D Lincoln penny, and it sold for over $1 million. How could something so small, so ordinary, become a life-changing fortune? The answer lies in a hidden mistake, a rare anomaly that slipped through the U.S. Mint's watchful eyes nearly 4 decades ago. Most people who held this coin never looked twice. It passed from register to pocket, from pocket to jar, lost in the shuffle of everyday life. But inside this little copper-plated disc was a secret worth up to $1.6 million. And here's the shocking part. It wasn't discovered by a millionaire investor, or a seasoned dealer with decades of experience. It was found by someone who almost ignored it completely, until one tiny detail stopped them cold. Collectors were stunned when the news broke. How could a penny from 1985, struck in Denver, carry such unimaginable value? Dealers scrambled. Auctions filled with whispers. And suddenly, this overlooked coin became one of the most hunted pennies in America. The story begins in the U.S. Mint, where billions of pennies were churned out in 1985. Most were struck cleanly, with the standard Lincoln Memorial reverse. But a small fraction, so small it's almost impossible to believe, carried errors. Some had doubled dies, tiny distortions invisible at first glance but glaring under magnification. Others showed striking problems, misalignments, or unusual metal compositions. Collectors couldn't believe it. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Imagine reaching into your coin jar, expecting to find nothing more than lunch money, and instead pulling out a coin that could pay off your house, your car, and set you up for life. It's not just the year. It's not just the D mint mark from Denver. It's the error that makes it extraordinary. Many 1985 D pennies are worth only a cent, but the rare ones, the mistake coins, are the ones that can climb into the millions, and every single detail matters. The tiniest doubling on the date. A barely noticeable misprint on Lincoln's profile. A mint mark that looks ever so slightly out of place. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins, because they know the window is closing. The market is hotter than ever, and every day, another lucky collector stumbles on a fortune hidden in plain sight. It means the next $1 million penny could already be in your hands. Right now. In your drawer. In that old coffee can of change sitting in your closet. Think about it. One slip of the minting press in 1985, one overlooked mistake, and suddenly your penny isn't just a penny. It's history. It's a treasure. It's a ticket to freedom. So here's how you know if you've got it. First, check the year, 1985. Second, look closely for the D mint mark, just under the date. And then, and this is where so many people give up too soon, examine every detail. A doubling in the numbers. A distorted mint mark. A surface that looks off compared to normal copper. Even the smallest irregularity can turn that coin into a jackpot. Collectors were shocked when one 1985 D penny crossed the auction block for over $1 million. And they'll be shocked again, because more are still out there, waiting to be found. So the next time you're tempted to toss your change into a tip jar, stop and look. The next time you dump your pennies into a Coinstar machine, think twice. Because one of those pennies could be your once-in-a-lifetime discovery. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. But instead, it stunned the entire coin world by selling for over $1 million. And the most shocking part? It was a simple 2016 Lincoln penny, the kind you and I have probably held 100 times without thinking twice. Now imagine this. You're standing at the counter of a gas station, you grab your change, and there it is. A dull little copper-colored penny, nothing special. You toss it in your pocket, maybe even drop it in a jar at home. But what if I told you that tiny coin could secretly be worth up to $1.7 million? That's not just pocket change. That's life-changing money. But how could a coin from as recent as 2016 carry a price tag that rivals luxury homes and supercars? That's where the mystery begins. The story of this penny is one of minting mistakes, overlooked details, and a discovery that sent shockwaves through collectors across America. Back in 2016, the U.S. Mint struck billions of Lincoln pennies. Most of them? Perfectly ordinary. Worth exactly 1 cent. But in the chaos of the presses, with machines running at lightning speed, something unusual slipped through. A coin with no mint mark. Now, to the untrained eye, this doesn't sound dramatic. But in the coin world? This is a thunderclap. You see, mint marks are like the fingerprint of a coin. A tiny letter stamped onto it that tells you where it was born, Denver, Philadelphia, San Francisco. Without that mark, the coin becomes an anomaly, a mistake, a one in a billion treasure that collectors lose their minds over. And one of those rare 2016 pennies without a mint mark? It didn't just stay hidden. It surfaced. And when it did, the bidding wars began. Collectors lined up, wallets open, determined to claim this strange little piece of history. The price climbed higher and higher, until finally, one lucky seller walked away with nearly $1.7 million in their pocket. But here's the part that sends chills down your spine. That penny could have been anywhere. In a vending machine. In your grocery store change. Maybe even buried at the bottom of your couch cushions right now. It all comes down to rarity. Billions of 2016 pennies exist. But only a handful slip through without their mint mark. Think of it like a typo in a priceless book. Everyone else has the normal version. But you? You're holding the misprint that changes everything. Dealers are still buzzing about it. Collectors can't stop talking. Because when a modern coin, something minted in our own lifetime, reaches million-dollar territory, it rewrites the rules of what's possible. But here's where it gets even more fascinating. Most people miss it. They glance at their change, maybe look at the date, and move on. They don't realize the absence of that tiny mint mark is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth more than a mansion. And what happened after that first discovery? The coin world went into overdrive. Suddenly, everyone was checking their jars, their glove compartments, their kitchen drawers. The idea that a 2016 penny could hold the power to change someone's life created a frenzy like never before. Not every 2016 penny without a mint mark will be a $1 million miracle. Condition matters. Collectors crave coins in pristine shape, sharp details, no scratches, minimal wear. A perfect example can make the difference between a small payout and a fortune. First, the date, 2016. Then, scan the coin carefully. Normally, pennies carry a small P or D under the date. If yours doesn't? If that tiny mint mark is missing? You may be holding the rarest of the rare. Handle it carefully. Do not clean it, do not scratch it, and definitely do not spend it. Because one ordinary-looking coin turned a collector's dream into a $1 million reality. And yours could be next. Think about it. Every time you reach for change, every time you open that dusty coin jar, you might be seconds away from uncovering a fortune hiding in plain sight. Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still rushing to get their hands on these rare finds. And the everyday person, the one who finds that coin first, could change their life forever. So tonight, when you go home, don't ignore those pennies sitting in your drawer. Take a closer look. Because hidden among the billions is a treasure so rare it could rewrite your future. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. A single penny, struck in 1976 with a tiny D mint mark beneath the date, became the center of one of the most shocking discoveries in modern coin collecting. And here's the twist. It was later valued at up to $1.8 million. How could a penny that millions of Americans spent without a second thought turn into a $1 million treasure? The answer lies in a combination of history, mistakes, and sheer chance. The year was 1976. America was celebrating its bicentennial. Fireworks lit the skies, flags flew proudly, and millions of commemorative coins were struck at the U.S. Mint to mark 200 years of independence. But in the middle of this nationwide celebration, deep inside the Denver Mint, something extraordinary happened. A few Lincoln pennies were struck with flaws so rare, so unusual, that decades later they would shake the coin world to its core. At first glance, the 1970 penny looks ordinary. You've seen it 1,000 times, the familiar portrait of Abraham Lincoln, the simple copper glow. But hidden in the details, there are tiny irregularities that transform this coin into a fortune. Collectors who stumbled upon them noticed doubling in the design. Some reported sharp misstrikes. Others found unusual planchet errors, coins struck on the wrong kind of metal, or with edges that looked unlike any normal cent. The result? A handful of 1976 D Lincoln pennies, unlike any others in existence. One of these rare 1976 D pennies surfaced at a major auction. At first, dealers whispered that it might fetch a few thousand. Then the bidding started. It climbed past 50,000, then 100, and then, shockingly, into the hundreds of thousands. When the hammer finally dropped, the coin's value had soared into the realm of over $1 million. Today, the finest known examples are valued as high as $1.8 million. Imagine that, one man's pocket change, a penny tossed aside during America's 200th birthday, later turning into $1 million miracle. And here's the chilling part. Most people walked right past these coins, never realizing what they held. Think about it. How many times have you dug through your change, glanced at a 1970s penny, and tossed it into a jar? Collectors believe that some of these $1 million 1976 pennies are still out there, hidden in circulation, hiding in drawers, waiting to be found. The secret lies in the errors. Some show doubled dies, Lincoln's face or the lettering slightly shadowed, as if stamped twice. Others are struck on leftover planchets from different denominations, creating a copper-red coin with the wrong weight. These are the accidents that turn everyday change into treasures. And the 1976 D is one of the most legendary of them all. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on even the lowest grade versions. Why? Because any authentic 1976 D error penny tied to these known varieties is worth serious money. And when one in pristine condition appears, the value skyrockets into the millions. But here's the detail most people miss: the mint mark. The small d under the year 1976 tells you it was struck in Denver. That's where the mistakes were made. If you find a 1976 penny without the D, it's just another cent. But if that D is present, and the coin shows unusual weight, doubling, or striking errors, you might be holding a fortune. Collectors were shocked when the first of these surfaced. Some even doubted the authenticity until it was certified and slabbed by professional grading services. But once verified, the story spread like wildfire. Newspapers wrote about it, online forums exploded with speculation, and ordinary people began pulling out their old coin jars, desperate to check. And here's where it gets inspirational. Every great discovery story begins with someone who didn't give up. One man checked his pocket change after decades of ignoring pennies. What he found turned into a six-figure payday. Another collector bought a roll of 1970 cents from a flea market and cracked it open to find one of the rare 1976 DS worth a life-changing sum. This is why collectors call it the miracle of small change. Something so ordinary, something so overlooked, can turn into $1 million key to a new life. Start by checking the year, 1976. Look for the D mint mark right beneath the date. Then study the coin carefully. Is Lincoln's profile doubled? Do the letters look shadowed? Does the coin feel heavier or lighter than a normal cent? These are the clues. And if you're uncertain, get it weighed and examined by a professional. Because here's the truth: every day, rare coins slip through unnoticed. They're spent at gas stations, lost in couch cushions, or traded for a gumball. But every now and then, someone pays attention. Someone looks closely. And that someone walks away with a coin worth up to $1.8 million. So the next time you see a penny, don't ignore it. That tiny piece of copper could carry the mistake, the flaw, the miracle that transforms it into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Imagine this. It's 1975. The Vietnam War is ending, the music of Fleetwood Mac and Elton John is everywhere, and pocket change is nothing more than the clinking sound in your jeans. But hiding in that change, from the Denver Mint, came one of the most unexpected treasures in modern coin history, the 1975 D Lincoln penny. A coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions of people have tossed it away without a second glance. And yet, one of them sold for over $1.10 million. The story begins deep inside the U.S. Mint. 1975 was a year of high production. Billions of pennies rolled off the presses, each one marked with the familiar D for Denver. But somewhere in that storm of copper coins, a mistake slipped through. Maybe it was a misaligned die. Maybe it was an overpolished strike. Or maybe, something much rarer. A flaw so small, so subtle, that even seasoned collectors walked right past it. A collector, carefully going through rolls of pennies, noticed one 1975D that didn't look like the rest. The detail was sharper, the color richer, the condition almost untouched. Under magnification, the differences were undeniable. This wasn't just a penny. This was a miracle of survival, a coin that somehow avoided the wear and scratches that doomed all the others. It was, in short, a time capsule, and when it hit the auction block, jaws dropped. Bidding started modestly, but within minutes, collectors were battling fiercely. The price climbed higher and higher, past thousands, then tens of thousands, and finally into the realm no one expected. By the end of the night, this tiny 1-cent piece had sold for an unbelievable $1.10 million. Most people still don't know what makes these 1975D pennies so special. You see, the Denver Mint produced over 4.5 billion pennies that year. Almost all of them are worth face value. But the rare survivors, the ones in pristine condition, can be worth a fortune. And then there are the elusive errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, and other mistakes that collectors hunt like buried treasure. One overlooked detail, and you might be holding a penny that could change your life. Collectors were shocked when word spread. Dealers rushed to find high-grade examples, searching through rolls, jars, and even old piggy banks. Stories began to circulate. A man in Texas pulling one from a parking lot, a teenager in California spotting one in her dad's change drawer. Each new discovery sent ripples through the coin community. Could the next $1 million penny be hiding in plain sight? But the real key is condition. Most pennies from 1975 have been scratched, dulled, or corroded by decades of use. The $1 million examples are flawless, what collectors call mint state. Their details are razor sharp, Lincoln's hair perfectly defined, the lettering crisp and clean, the shine still as bright as the day it was struck. Many people have owned these coins without ever realizing it. A rare 1975D penny could have passed through your hands in a grocery store, sat in a coin jar, or slipped behind a couch cushion. One small oversight, and $1 million could be gone forever. But what makes this story unforgettable is how it changes the way we look at money itself. For most people, a penny is worthless. Something to ignore, or even throw away. But for a lucky few, that same penny becomes the symbol of hope, of chance, of possibility. Every time you hold one, you're holding the possibility of a life-changing treasure. 1975 with the D mint mark just below the year. Second, look at the condition. If it looks almost brand new, without scratches or discoloration, it could be worth grading. And third, watch for errors, doubling in the letters, an off-center strike, or anything unusual. Those tiny imperfections are what turn ordinary coins into legends. Collectors are still hunting, and the market remains fierce. Even lower-grade examples can bring in hundreds, sometimes thousands, depending on the demand. But the flawless, near-perfect coins, those are the ones that cross into the $1 million range. So next time you dump out that jar of pennies, pause for a second. Look closer. Because hidden among the dull copper and worn edges, there might be one that shines just a little brighter. And that one coin could change everything. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.